let's set this up on some sheets. So when we opened the default, we opened up a file that had preset sheets for us. I don't want to use any of those sheets because I don't like the title block that gets used in them, and I don't like the setup. So I'm going to delete all these sheets by highlighting the first sheet, scrolling down until I see the last sheet, hold down the Shift key, which highlights all the sheets in the list, and then right click and hit delete. So that gives us brand new sheets to work with. So we're going to create a new sheet, and we're going to have to load a title block that I have available for you. It's on the R drive in 220 under Families, and it is in the title block folder. And what we're going to use for this assignment is the 11 by 17 horizontal minimal, meaning it's minimal annotation in the title block to give us maximal real estate for the drawings. When we brought in that sheet, it just default named it after the last sheet probably that was created, so I want to rename that. And this will be our cover sheet, so I'll call this A0, A0.0, and I'll rename this cover. So that's the title and the sheet number. I'm going to create a second sheet using the same title block. Rename it floor plan. We don't have to call it first floor plan because there's no second floor. Whoops, I put that in the wrong place. So I'll call that A 1.0 floor plan. And we'll create a third sheet. Let's rename that A 2.1 rather, and this will be elevations. I think we'll be able to get 2 elevations on that sheet, and we will get another 2 elevations on the next sheet. And the last sheet that we're going to have is a section sheet. So we'll rename that A 3.0 section. So we have all our sheets. We know where we're going to put everything. So now I need to populate those sheets. So I want to go to the first floor plan, and I want to drag and drop the first floor view onto the sheet. So I just drag and drop it onto the sheet. And you can see that it comes in with a very large crop region, and these elevation symbols are way out there. So I want to kind of bring everything in. So I want to double click inside the viewport, which activates that viewport for me. And I want to bring in these elevation symbols, leaving enough room for dimensions when we add them a little later. You can always move them slightly. But when we move those, these are the actual elevation lines that define what is being shown in our elevations. I'm just going to bring that a little bit closer to the building, and when we set up our elevations, we'll be able to control the length of those lines and make them much shorter. Now I can turn on the crop region, and I want to turn on that crop region as well the annotation crop, which gives us a hidden line. That way I can bring the crop region very tight to the edge of the building. And in doing so, when I expand the hidden lines, that will show all annotation. Now you can see that I don't have the elevation symbols. I think the reason for that is I might not have brought the lines for the elevations. Those lines that I showed you, that's why I put them very close to the building. Where those lines are define whether or not these elevation symbols show up within the annotation crop region. So we want to bring those awfully close to the outside boundary of the walls so that we can see. Let's bring that one even closer. So that's a little nuance that you might not know until you've become a little bit more savvy user of Revit. So now I've got things where I think I want them. I've got the crop region tight around the view. Turn off the crop region, double click outside the viewport, and you can see that I'm left with this view label. The view label belongs with the view. If you have the view selected, you try to move the view label, you'll see that the view goes with it. If you make sure that nothing is selected, then click the view label and move it to the location you'd like to see it within the view. You can also adjust the length of this view label by clicking on the viewport. This is very unintuitive. And then dragging that view label to a size that seems more reasonable. I prefer not to see the view label if I've already got it listed here in the title block. So one of the changes we can make is to edit the viewport type and have the show title be set to when multiple viewports are being used on the sheet, so that we don't see a title if that's the only thing that's available on the sheet. So there's our first floor view, and it's been attached to our first floor sheet. We hit the plus sign next to that, we can see that attachment. So we're going to go ahead and make those attachments to the elevations. I'm going to do that once, and then we'll go on to the next video. So I want to attach the north and east elevation. The viewports are way too big, so we're going to double click inside the viewport to activate it, turn on the crop region, and bring those viewports really close to the edge of the view. We also want to turn on that annotation crop and allow space for that annotation around the edge of the view by moving those hidden lines out. Turn off the crop region and then adjust the location of that view so we have it within the title block. This will need to include the view labels because we'll have more than one view. So we want to see, I'm not able to select that viewport now, so let's fix this one before we move on to select fixing the view labels. So now I'm active inside the east view, and I want to do something here that I think is redundant. I don't need to show the levels, so I'm going to use the VG command, or just typing VG at your title block, not title block, but keyboard. It opens up the visibility graphics override, and I want to, under annotation categories, I want to turn off levels, and I want to turn off sections, again under the annotation tab. I don't want to see these section tags showing up in my elevations. So that view now has been set that way. I want to turn on the crop region, bring that in tightly to the edge of the view. Turn on the annotation crop so I can see that I've got plenty of room to add annotation. Turn off the crop region, double click outside the viewport to deactivate the view. And then I want this view to make sure it's aligned with, and you can see if I move that view to a different spot and I move it so that it's aligned with the front view, I'll see that blue dashed line when it's aligned properly. Now the view labels need to be corrected. So this should say, this is the east view over here, this is the north view. So I want to select both of them and align them on the sheet. So you can see that that will align automatically, but they're obviously too long, so we want to click the viewport and shrink the length of that view label and do the same with the one under the east elevation. I still want to get rid of that section mark, so I'll double click inside that viewport, type VG, and under annotation categories turn off the section, and I think we're done. So you're going to want to do the same thing with the other elevations and the section view so that you have all of your sheets populated.